Welcome to Doing It Scared, the podcast where I share my journey of bold choices and unexpected turns. I'm Kirshena. I've always been intentional, even calculated, weighing every decision carefully. But this is me in my mid 30s, learning to let go and doing it scared. Episode 3: Conquering Imposter Syndrome. Have you ever felt like no matter how hard you try, how good you are at something or the accomplishments you've had, you somehow feel like you don't belong? That was me, and in some ways, it still is. According to Merriam-Webster, imposter syndrome is a psychological condition of persistent self doubt about one's abilities or accomplishments, combined with a fear of being exposed as a fraud despite evidence of success. 14 years ago, I walked into the world of journalism, reporting, and the media, igniting a small spark that had started when I was just a child. It was a spark that had been kept hidden, but had been quietly burning all along. Growing up, I knew I wanted to be a medical doctor. The type of doctor I imagined changed over time. And by the time I started medical school, I knew without a shadow of a doubt that practicing medicine like a normal doctor was just not for me. I was meant to be a pathologist. I'm a natural problem solver. And what better way to solve medical problems than by figuring out what someone died from? The desire to become an MD was the fire that pushed me to take the necessary academic steps to get into more than one pre-med program. It took me about 4 years before I actually set foot in medical school because, as with many things, financing was the issue. So while I waited it out, I unknowingly took a leap of faith on that dimmer spark, journalism, and applied for a trainee reporter position at one of our local newspapers. That leap of faith and the need to make some money while I figured out how I was going to pay for medical school started this amazing journey that I honestly would not trade. I have vague memories of playing dress up as a child. And by dress up, I mean pretending to be a news anchor. I would write my own stories, sit at my makeshift news desk, and present my newscast to, well, myself. When I started at the newspaper on January 2nd, 2012, I never envisioned where I would be today or the things I would accomplish in the years that followed. Early in my career, I ran into a family friend who was a cameraman for a local TV news station. He looked at me and said, "You actually did it." Surprised, I asked him, "Did what?" He told me that when I was younger, I told him I wanted to be a journalist. I have no recollection of that conversation or of ever telling anyone that journalism might be a career option. But his words did bring back those memories of me playing dress up as a news anchor. Weeks, months, and years passed, and I became better and better. I jumped at every opportunity to learn more about this profession that I thought was temporary because I was still holding on to that dream of being a medical doctor. And for a few years, I was able to follow that dream. I walked into medical school and left with just about a year and a half to go before finishing. In some ways, that felt like failure, but in other ways, it was a blessing in disguise. For several years, I felt like I didn't belong in the media world either. I'm sure some of you can relate, having found that thing that's just you, but for some reason you feel out of place or somewhat like you don't belong there. It also took me during those past few years to understand that I had been listening to the outside voices. The voices of doubt were not mine, but they quickly became my insecurities, even though the work I put out was good. So I decided to take a break and recalibrate. Life experiences influence who we become and ignite new passions within us. For me, that passion was and still is journalism. I may not have all the answers. I may sometimes still feel out of place, even after 14 years. But I will continue to persevere because I now know I belong, and I'll continue to carve out my place. I've chosen to stay out of the spotlight and not shout my successes from the rooftops. But I still know I belong. Instead, I've decided to dust off my awards and frame my certificates, and I will give them a place in my new home office. Most importantly, I will continue to shake off this imposter syndrome, and I will keep doing the work I know I've been called to do. And so should you, even if it means doing it scared. Thanks so much for listening to Doing It Scared. If you're on a scary path too, remember, you're not alone. Subscribe for more stories of courage and growth, and catch the next episode coming your way next week. Take care and keep doing it scared.